Happy Friday, and welcome back to another episode of the Southern Fried Tea. And as you can see, I'm not Jeanette. Jeanette asked me to guest host the show today for her. She couldn't make it, but she sends her love to you guys. I just want to take a moment to thank her first, because she texted me and said, Marcia, can you do me a favor? I'm busy, I can't get out of this event, and I really want to keep my show going for my guest. So you Southern Fried gals out there, she loves you. She loves to pour into you and give you nuggets of wisdom each and every week. So I was honored that she asked me. I'm super grateful. So thank you, Jeanette, for having me on here. And if I look familiar to some of you guys, it's because I've been on the show twice. My name is Marcia Prince, and I feel like the health and fitness resident person now. I've been on here for 2 health and fitness segments, and I own a company for women called Plant Chicks. And we basically help women rock out with their brock out. In other words, get off the diets and on a sustainable lifestyle. So as a health coach for the past 15 years, women will come and lead with weight loss. And what they say is basically I want to lose X amount of pounds, 10 pounds, 50, 100, whatever, how many pounds they want to lose. And at the end of the day, it really isn't about the weight that you lose, right? It is about self-love. And when they lead with weight loss, I always say, do you want to get to your goal weight? Or do you want to get to your goal lifestyle? Because your goal lifestyle is where mindset is at. We can get you to your goal weight, but is it sustainable? Think about that. A lot of times we go on these fad diets and we're so focused. We get on this goal and we get there in 90 days or 120 days. And then we have this burnout mode where it's not sustainable. And you're like, how did I get here? And then you just go on to the next fad diet and then the next fad diet. And you're like, oh gosh. And you're on the quest for the perfect diet, right? The perfect workout, the perfect whatever it is. At the end of the day, as a health coach, I'm here to tell you, there is no perfect diet. There is no perfect workout. Guess what it is? It's about self-love, because your diet's going to change through your life. Your workouts are going to change through your life. And how you think about yourself is going to change through your life. Because, here I am at 44 now. I'm not the same as I was at 34 than I was at 24. You evolve and you change. Now, you can evolve and change and grow as a great human being, or you can just kind of exist right here. And we're here to have you be a great human being. We don't want you just to exist, right? We just don't want you to be on the next fad diet or the next crazy workout train. We're here to teach you about self-love. And let me tell you this. So today's tea time, I want to open up with this one quote, but I'm going to have a drink of tea. And Jeanette would be proud because this is Starbucks' finest green tea. So let me have a sip here. Thank you, Starbucks. Okay. So I want to lead with this quote for today's tea time. Your diet is not only what you eat, it's what you watch, what you listen to, what you read, the people you hang around. Being mindful of things that you put in your body emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Now think about that for a minute. A lot of the times we want to just associate diet with food, but diet is what we do day in and day out. And I like to always change the focus. And so when women come to me with diets, I'm like, this is the muscle we need to work on, the mental muscle, right? This is the one that we need to change, not your nutrition plan. Yes, nutrition's important, workout's important, but at the end of the day, it's going to be your mindset, all right? So everything that you do on a daily basis encompasses what you are tomorrow as a human, right? And the next day, and the next day. What do you do today? That's going to deposit into your next life for tomorrow. All right, so as we live here in the moment, and we're talking about self-love, you're probably thinking, what the heck is self-love? Or maybe you haven't loved yourself before. I've been in that boat too. It took me 28 years, I'm not even kidding you, and I'm 44 now, 28 years to actually physically love myself, like really, truly know what the meaning of self-love was. I didn't know what it was. I was pouring into other people that I never poured into myself. And yeah, I may have worked out, I may have ate healthy, but that is only just a small fraction of self-love, okay? So that leads me to today's first guest. We actually have the creator of the Self-Love Challenge. Her name is Brandy Wilson Edwards. She's a creator of Self-Love Challenge. She's an empowerment speaker and coach. You guys, she is the self-love guru. And if you guys have no idea, like, what is self-love? How do I get there? How do I get this coach? Let me introduce Brandy Wilson Edwards.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
As a health and fitness expert, I always teach people, as how eat the right foods and work out. And of course, it's the Yoda mindset of self-love, but you actually do that for a business.
I do.
What is self-love?
Self-love is a lifestyle. It is absolutely everything that we choose to do or not do. It is how we think about ourselves. It is accepting ourselves. It is our interactions with other people. Sometimes how we treat other people reflects on how we feel about ourselves. And simply put, self-love is understanding, accepting, and acknowledging that we all can be a masterpiece and a beautiful work in progress simultaneously.
I love that you said a masterpiece, because we are our own artwork. We can be a masterpiece. So how was the Self-Love Challenge born? Like, how did you come up with this concept? Because I never heard of self-love until I started doing therapy and reading personal development books and started pouring into myself. Then I had that aha moment, like, oh, I don't think I've ever truly loved myself. How did it happen for you?
So my self-love journey really began unintentionally. I started doing hot yoga, I think around 2015 or so, and it was these incredible instructors that I had, and I really recall them saying, come to the mat to feel, not to do. And that's where I really started to learn to accept myself where I was at in any given moment. And when I think back, I mean, I agree with you, Marcia. I, for years, did not really even, I'd probably never heard of the word self-love. And it wasn't until I started working on myself and really reflecting on growing and evolving and improving and thinking back to where it all began, it started really young as far as like insecurities, because self-love, it is, accepting our body and body acceptance, etc. But it's also our mind. It's everything. It's our life. But for me, I've always struggled, like a lot of women. I feel like accepting my body where I'm at. I've always felt like I need to lose 5 more pounds. I could tighten and tone this. I have cellulite here, and all of those things. So it really started unintentionally by accepting my body, and then it just grew more with mindset, etc. And so the best way I can describe it for you and for everyone watching is just clear your mind and visualize with me for a moment and imagine a 5-year-old girl. And imagine her having questions about her body and having these thoughts that she's fat. And that is learned behavior from somewhere. I don't know exactly where it came from, but it's not surprising with, that was before social media and things like that. But women, our mothers, our aunts, our grandmothers that have had these insecurities, and it gets passed down maybe unintentionally because we as children are so impressionable and we absorb all of this. And so, imagine that same little girl in elementary school and middle school going to the beach and going to the pool with a t-shirt over her body. And then in high school, starting to take diet pills. And then in college, imagine a young, beautiful college girl who has a world ahead of her and is writing handwritten mean messages inside of her food cabinet, on the outside of her food cabinet to deter her from eating, and using these mean messages as a way of motivating. That was me. That was me, and it breaks my heart to say that that was me. But the more that I share my story, the more that I know so many other women feel like this or felt like this, as well as young girls. And it was through working on myself and learning to love myself in any given moment while I was working on myself where I really found love for myself. And it's a never-ending journey. It is really never-ending.
I know, it's kind of crazy the things that we can reflect on our past. Like, you were that little girl that wore the shirt, you're embarrassed of your body. How old were you there?
I can recall as young as, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I have pictures where I'm at the beach and swimming pool with my family, and I have a t-shirt on building sandcastles. And I look back, and I wasn't an overweight child. I was a normal, healthy little girl. And those thoughts have stayed with me my entire life, and I've been trying to retrain my brain over the past few years to where, do I still have thoughts and, compare myself sometimes to other people? Yes, but then I have to reel it in and say, no, I have to focus on myself. This is a choice, this thought, this feeling, and I can choose to have other choices and feelings, etc.
And just think, there's so many young kids out there, young 5, 6, 7 years old, that have these thoughts that they either see on TV and now social
Yes.
media, because you didn't have it back then, but
Thankfully.
now we do. I mean, we're inundated with the super perfect Instagram lifestyle, and these young kids are seeing it, or YouTubers, these YouTube kids now, and you're starting to compare at a young age. Should I be like this? I
Right.
mean, it's like completely insane. I feel like it definitely, like what you do, self-love challenge, because you do coach women from every age, from 5 years old to 75,
I do.
95.
I do.
And I love that you do that, because you help people recognize their strength and the beauty in them that they never knew that they had.
Thank
Yes.
you.
No, I think it's so beautiful. So when I met Brandy, she's just this fierce, this fierce soul of love.
Thank you.
And she always has a really bright light. So when you're around Brandy, she's just so fierce and has this awesome bright light.
Thank
but
you.
she brings out the best in you. And that's who you want to hang out with, people that bring out the best in you. And we have a picture of Brandy, and she is just making these girls, I love it. They're having a great time, but she is letting these girls recognize the best in them. And what were you saying here to get this laugh? I love this.
I'm not sure where what had happened exactly, but that particular picture was from a Q&A that I started doing with these girls. It was a middle school, about 200 girls, 7th and 8th grade, and I gave them an empowerment talk about accepting themselves, believing in themselves, loving themselves, and then also about making better choices and anti-bullying. And you don't have to be friends with everyone, but you do have to be kind to everyone. And I opened it up for a Q&A of, how can we together as a group build each other up and make school a good place for all these girls to come to? And I'm not exactly sure, but I'm glad that there were some lighthearted moments in there, because it was a serious topic, but we did have some good laughs as well.
I love it. I love that you can recognize that.
Thank you.
So as a self-love coach, what exactly do you do? Tell our viewers what you do.
So as a self-love coach, basically, I want to build confidence within yourself, help you build confidence, help you build courage. My motto, my mantra, my declaration from my life for years has been, be strong and courageous. So I'm going to challenge you to be strong and courageous, to step out of your comfort zone, to take action despite fear, because self-love is more than just our body. It is more than just our mind. It is everything that we choose to do and everything that we choose not to do. And I really just help give women and young girls the tools to help them follow their happiness.
That's awesome. So what kind of tips would you give our viewers out there if they're at a low place in life and they really don't love themselves? They think they do, but they don't. What are some tips you can give our viewers how you can love yourself?
Okay, that is a great question. And when I give tips, sometimes it can feel like it might be a simple thing to do, but in practical application, it can be a lot more difficult and a lot more challenging. And one way to love yourself is to know that everything is a choice. If you have these negative thoughts and these negative feelings about yourself, you can also choose to have these positive thoughts and these positive feelings about yourself. And it's working on retraining your brain. You have to work your mental muscles a lot more than you have to work your physical muscles. And just loving yourself by knowing that, yes, it's not always easy, but it's always worth it, and retraining your brain, replacing negative thoughts with positive thoughts. And another way that people can work on loving themselves is just accepting yourself where you are. And while you are enough, everyone is enough as we are, we should always want to grow, evolve, and improve to become better and do better. And it starts by accepting yourself where you are and just telling yourself that you are going to love yourself while you work on yourself. Give yourself compassion, give yourself grace that you so kindly give to other people, and love yourself while you work on yourself. And part of accepting yourself is not comparing yourself to other people. And when you have those thoughts, realizing that that's a choice, recognizing it, and then say, no, I'm not going to compare myself because I have different strengths than they do. We all have different strengths. We all have different weaknesses.
I love that. And I know that even as a coach, when you coach them, because just being a health coach, we kind of dive deep into it. Most people think it's about their diet or their workout, which it can be. It's a little bit of it, but it's about the mindset. It's like, what can you do right now with your workout? What can you do to eat healthier? It's not about doing all or like everything. Everyone wants to do an all or nothing. It's not about all or nothing. It's about working on yourself every day, making progress, not perfection, because I've been the person where I was a hot mess. And then I corrected my hot mess life and tried to be the perfectionist, and that was exhausting, being a perfectionist. And then I finally had to just let go and just be completely authentic myself. And it took a long time to be comfortable in my own skin. Like I said, my journey started at 28. So about 28 to about 34, it was like this whole era of finding how to love myself, right? Day in and day out. And here I am at 44. I've actually did not like myself longer than I love myself, which is crazy. And a lot of people out there are not loving themselves right now. And you may think you do, but it's like, do you? It's by what you eat, how you work out. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you hanging around the right people? Are you in a bad relationship that maybe you need to get out of? Maybe you need to cut off family members. These are all things to think about. And some of us don't think, we're like, oh no, just because this person is our friend and they're abusing us, they should be our friend. And I've had to cut numerous people out of my life on my journey to self-love. And was it hard? Oh yes, it's not easy. But you guys, there's in-depth coaching about this, not just like doing like a one-on-one. Brandy has a self-love retreat. So tell us a little about this retreat. What do you guys do?
So the retreat that I have coming up is over Memorial Day weekend for women. And I just describe it as an adult slumber party for women. Remember when you were a young girl and you would stay up talking to your girlfriends all night, just kind of figuring out life together? That is what we do. I bring women together, we build a community, and the more that we share our voice, we share our stories, we find that we have so much more in common, that we're not alone, and that we can relate to each other, because you can judge people from the exterior, but you have no idea what other people are going through. And when you open yourselves up and allow yourself to be vulnerable, you find all of these amazing women that can support you. We're going to be around a lot of nature. We're going to have a lot of different workshops, some creativity type stuff, a lot of self-care, because self-care is not selfish, it is necessary. So an environment for people to learn and have fun and just get away for a little bit.
I like how you put an adult slumber party.
Yes, an adult slumber party.
I mean, I'm in need of one of those big time.
Aren't we
time.
all with our schedules
Ladies,
and life
who
and
needs,
struggles and stress?
I mean, I feel like there's always, you need to make time as a woman, because as a woman, we are giving to our families.
Absolutely.
We're giving to our job. We're giving out to the to-do list we have to do with errands of life. And sometimes we need to escape and get away. And we don't do that enough. It's like, we always feel like we have these major responsibilities, which we do, and we just never let go, just to kind of let go of these responsibilities, pour into ourselves. And it is good. It's refreshing to meet other women that actually, that we can relate to. And it's like, oh, thank God, I thought I was the only one with this giant list of to-do that's weighing on my shoulders.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Well, and just understanding that we are better together. Women, we have to stop competing with each other. And that's where I love getting into schools, because these young girls are so impressionable. We have to let them know, let's collaborate, let's complement, let's build each other up. We are not in a competition with each other. And, to go on what you were saying earlier, is prioritize yourself. Make yourself a priority and not an option.
That's perfectly said. I love that.
Thank you.
So where can our viewers find you?
You can find me all over social media. I am on Instagram at The Self Love Challenge, and you can email me and we can talk about retreats that you might be interested, or mentoring, coaching, things like that, at theselflovechallenge@gmail.com, and my website is selflovechallenge.com.
I love that. Thank you, Brandy, for being here and shining your light.
Thank you so
you
much
guys,
for having
we are
me.
so honored to have her. So check her out, the Self-Love Challenge. If you need a little self-love in your life,
you.
I know that I do. I always do. So I love it. Yes. All right. Thank you. And our next guest, speaking of self-love, we're going to have her on here in a minute. Let's see. Her name is Tracy Roberts. And in her life, when everything was going right, tragedy hit, and it happens to the best of us. So think about it. What if your life is going, you're working out, you're eating healthy, you're just slaying life, the family life is going good, all the above, right? All the boxes check, and then tragedy hits. I feel like in the most difficult times, that's who you find out who you are and what you're made of. It is hard as a woman. And just when you find out something tragic that goes on in your life, whether it's a death, a health scare, just anything that you're just mind blown that's happening in your life, you're like, why is this happening to me? How is this happening to me, right? So it's finding that strength in a time of weakness. It's these hardships. So our next guest, her name is Tracy Roberts, and she's a Mosaic Fit Nut, and she is a cancer thriver. Now, what I love about this is she's not a cancer survivor, she is a cancer thriver. I love that she just found her self-love through her health scare and became not just a survivor, she became a thriver. How awesome is that? I've never met anybody with that, with the word thriver. Okay, so we're going to bring Tracy on here in just a minute. But think about what hardships went on in your life. And did you truly love yourself? Think about that. Did you truly, in times of dark despair or some tragedy hit, how did you handle it? A lot of us don't know how to handle it until it happens. And then it hits. And you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck just happened? All right, guys, let me welcome my next guest, Tracy Roberts, Mosaic Fit Nut and Cancer Thriver.
That's
Woo!
right. It's so happy to be here.
Well, she is like a breath of, look at the fresh air, sunshine over here.
I got the yellow.
Yellow, yes. Thank you for coming on the show today. I was just giving you this awesome little intro.
Ooh,
That you had everything going well in your life, and then you get this news. Like, take us back. Like, you get this news, you have cancer.
Yeah.
So walk us
Yes.
through this.
So BC, before cancer.
Oh, we have a name
That's
for
what
it.
I like to call it, BC. I was, working out every day. I had been pretty much plant-based from the time I was in my 30s. So, I didn't eat a lot of sugar. I took probiotics every day. Let's see, what else did I do? I did cleanses.
Yes.
And it was whole food cleanses. I didn't do any of those master cleanse or anything like out of the ordinary or strange or anything like that. And so I felt like I was doing the right thing. I mean, I had 2 boys. I was busy I was also, you know what the important thing is? I was taking care of my mental health too. So it wasn't just the physical for me. I had always been somebody that wanted to dig into my emotional health. And so I'd worked with counselors. I had gone through discovery training programs. I had done women's workshops, all of that, just to kind of heal kind of the brokenness, right?
So you were just checking all the boxes.
I was checking the boxes. I was like, I'm doing everything you can and I don't think my thought was to be sure I don't get sick.
Right.
I just thought, I'm so healthy, why would I ever get sick? But the one thing I did have is from the time I was 20, I always had inflammation in my belly. So that's kind of why even in my early 20s, I started changing my diet. And I had learned from a friend who was all organic. And so when I was about 25, I started, I didn't drink any more milk and dairy and stuff. And so I think that's when soy milk was popular, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, drink soy milk. Now we know it's not that great for you. But at the time, I was like, okay, I'm changing these things. But even though I was eating well, I always had some inflammation. And I think looking back now, I just got diagnosed with SIBO, so a couple months ago, and come to find out, SIBO, about 80% of people who were diagnosed in the 90s with IBS actually have SIBO, which can cause cancer.
Wow. Yeah. So what kind of cancer did you have?
So I had colorectal cancer.
Okay. And so walk us back to that day. Did you get a call or did you were
Yes.
at the doctor's office?
So I had started bleeding. I had gone for regular checkups. All my blood work was normal at my checkups. But I started bleeding the summer of 2014 and had decided, well, you know what? I'm going to stop drinking coffee. I'm going to give myself a break. I'm going to do some cleansing. I'm going to make an appointment. I'm going to see a GI and I'm going to see an allergist. Maybe I have celiac disease. Maybe I have Crohn's. Did all the allergy testing. I was allergic to cats and horses. And that's it. I was like, okay. And I had done the food sensitivity test thing like years before that. So I was like, all right. So my conversation with these doctors would kind of go like this. I'd say, so, I always have been like this inflammation, but I've been having like some bleeding, and I just want to make sure that everything's okay. And and by the way, I've been told I have this internal hemorrhoid. Okay. That I was told like in 2004 when I had my first son.
Right.
It can take 10 years for a polyp to grow. So that little polyp that was the internal hemorrhoid most likely is what then grew into a tumor. So the GI says to me, okay, let's do a colonoscopy. So I was like, all right. So we, like the next day, like I'd already eaten breakfast, and she's like, don't eat anything else. Drink this, Miralax Gatorade smoothie all the rest of the day. And I was like, all right. So I really kind of loved it, because then I felt like cleaned out, which somebody who is IBS, you always feel like constipated.
Oh, no.
Sorry, I'm going to talk about it. But yeah, so I always felt like that. So I was like, all right, this is easy. People are complaining about this. I'm feeling pretty light. I'm feeling good. Go in for the colonoscopy. And when I come out, she tells me, we're going to go in there, we're going to check it out. And she said, and we'll band up that hemorrhoid. Okay, no big deal. I come out, and she's like, so it was a polyps, not a hemorrhoid. So we're going to go ahead and I can't remove it because it's so low. And because it's so low, you're going to have a surgeon. So I'm still like, no big deal. Like, I'm healthy, even though it looked like cauliflower in the picture. Like, I don't really know what cancer looks like at this point from a picture. So I was like, oh, okay, like it's a nasty little thing, but we'll go do it. So I went and I did the CT scan, and I did blood work, and I even had pictures. Like, I was like, selfie, like I'm in, scrubs, and I'm going to get my CT scan, like not worried about it at all. Go and get all that done the next week, and I'm at the chiropractor's office, and they're stretching my leg. I remember the girl had my leg up, and I was like, do you mind if I take this call? It was, the GI's office, and I get on the phone, and she's stretching my leg's like way up in the air, and she's like, Tracy, I just, I need to tell you that it came back, that it's positive. It was malignant. And I go, huh?
You're like, no.
I was like, can you stop stretching me?
No.
And she's like, and I was like, all right. And you just go into this, I think I just went numb. I think I just was like.
You shut down.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're like, no, I can't process this.
And she's talking, right? And she's, Tracy. And you're like, going down the rabbit trail, like, wait a minute, is she really saying, is this really happening? Like, where am I? And what's going to happen here? And now what happens? And she's saying words like chemotherapy and radiation and surgery and colostomy. And I'm thinking, like, I just turned 40. Like, this is supposed to be the new beginning. Like, 40 is about transformation and new beginnings. Like, this is, like, going to be the best decade ever.
Amen.
Met somebody. I'm going to get remarried. Like, this is going to be awesome. And here's what I'm hearing on the phone. And I was, like, just stunned.
So you just met somebody. We
had dated about a year at that time.
And then you're like, but boom, here's your diagnosis.
There's my diagnosis. Yes. And so I drove to a park. It was my favorite park in Plano. And I sat there and just sat there for a while. And you're going, who do I call first?
No.
Or do I call anybody? Like, who do I talk to? What do I say? Is this real? Yeah. So
I could not even imagine processing that, like getting that, especially young. 40 is young.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's back in the day when we were 20, we used to think that was old.
Oh, right.
And then when you were like, oh, wait, 40 is.
You're like, I'm so young.
I just started life.
Exactly.
And wait a minute, I got cancer?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So who did you call?
So oh my gosh, this is hilarious. So the first person, actually, I think my ex-husband had called me, and it was his birthday that day.
Oh, no.
So he had called me about something, and I was like, well, I guess this is the first person that's going to find out. So I go, hello? And we were talking about something, and I said, before we even go in there, I just need to pause you. And here's what I just found out. And it was like crickets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's Did you cry? Or were you still like holding back?
I still was just not
Processing?
Processing was probably the best word. I called my dad because I knew he would be objective. My mom, I knew if I talked to her, it would just be floodgates. So I thought,
Strategically
okay, let me
waiting.
be strategic. My dad's married to like a chief nursing officer. She may have some connections. Like, all right, like let's stay.
You're trying to figure it out.
I am. I'm like, we're going to fix this. Like, no problem. And then I drove home, and I remember Philip, my husband, had the flu. So I was alone that whole weekend, and he didn't call me that night, I don't think until like 9 o'clock at night. And of course, I'm going through all these emotions, like he may not want to deal with this.
Oh no.
Maybe like what does this look like? Can this be real? And then of course you're Googling, right? You're Googling everything possible. You're
That's the worst thing you can do, probably. Don't Google. Google
Oh, yeah.
MD. No Google MD.
Right.
people.
So my mindset is I'm pretty positive. And I thought, okay, like the worst thing here is like you have to end up with a colostomy bag. Well, surely that's not going to be my deal. I'm probably going to go in. They're going to say we can surgically remove this, maybe a little bit of like radiation. Done. So I'm like sitting there. I'm parked there. And it was probably the next day I went to work, something normal. And I got into the office and I turned the computer on, and then boom, it hit me. And I thought, oh my goodness, what is going to happen now?
And what did happen?
So I ended up going to 3 different surgeons. I went to one, and I remember somebody gave me a story. Somebody gave me a Valium, right? So I don't, take anything ever. And they were like, yeah, she gives me 2 Valium. And I was like, oh, so I just took 2 Valium. like, okay, And then I have to drive
Oh no.
to, this doctor's appointment, and Philip's meeting me there. And I am like, whoa. And she's just, well, Tracy, does like an exam and says, it's really close to what they call the anal verge. So when you kind of, it's a bittersweet situation, because the higher up the tumor, the less I may have even noticed it. It was like 2 centimeters, or I think it was, or something like that, from the anal verge. And so because of that, it was too low to probably reattach me. And I thought, well, I don't like her answer. So we're going to find another person's.
You're like, second opinion
we
and
need some,
a third
like,
opinion.
MD Anderson or somebody else, because clearly this woman doesn't know what she's talking about, right? So we go to Houston then. We go to UT Southwest. All of them said the same thing.
That's good that you went and got a second and third
Yeah.
opinion, though.
Yeah, and then 4th.
Okay, never mind. 4th.
And they all told me the same thing. And I was like, I am going to be a stage 0. Like, you just don't even know. And
I love the positivity throughout all this.
Yeah. I was like, oh no. And the guy, I remember the one doctor was like, oh, honey, stage 0, like, doesn't happen. And I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna happen. And I was a stage 0.
You were?
After chemo radiation. Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
after that, and they do surgery. Yeah, I was a stage
You were
0.
I love how positive you were and in denial at the same time. And then we have on the screen, we have Tracy going through her treatment. So what did they have to do?
So that picture was from, I had done a 28-day treatment protocol. So they always have these protocols, right? And so they go, oh, you have colorectal cancer. Here's what we do for you. And we're going to do this, neoadjuvant, I can't even say the word. It's this before treatment, basically. I can't say that long word. But it is chemo and radiation combined for 28 sessions. And every day, so 5 days a week, radiation. And then I took this pill, this chemo pill. The first day, I got in the car, and I had this pink pill in my hand, and I cried all the way to work, thinking, you have spent like 20 years of your life eating clean, being healthy, promoting wellness, and you're about to take poison. Like, I'm about to put poison in my body. And of course, at the time, and they're wonderful, but people will be like, oh, eat lemons and do baking soda and do this and eat more greens. And I'm like, I did everything. The only thing I didn't know about was water fasting, which I
Sure.
kind of wish I would have, because there is actually a place in Northern California that they
True
do.
North.
Yes.
True North, yes.
21-day water fasting. And if I would have known that, I might have done that, because that really would have been the only thing I didn't do
Right.
in my life that maybe could have shrunk the tumor. So I really felt like I didn't have a lot of decision. And when somebody looks at you and says, do you want to be at your kid's graduation? And you think to yourself, and this is a cancer that you can have a good success rate, or you do nothing, right? And I was
wow.
like, and of course I'm having pain and I'm bleeding, so I had to do something.
Right.
But yeah, so I take the pill and I start the process of going through these treatments. And that picture was, I think I hit day 27 and I was in terrible pain. I had been on morphine. It was awful. I ended up in the hospital for 2.5 weeks. They had burned me so bad in a functional part of your body, right? So breast cancer, all of it's a terrible journey, honestly. But when it's dealing with, say, your esophagus or your rectum, where you are using that, it was like, I don't want to be too graphic.
Fire in the hole.
Yeah, there we go. It was like the ring of fire. So every day, it was so funny because
Fire in the hole. Like a cannon.
yes, exactly. I mean, I'd be screaming in the bathroom. It was awful. And
Okay, so I never
Yeah.
had cancer. I really don't know
Right.
much about some of the treatments, only from what I've heard. So when you say it's burning, is it the pill that you're taking?
both, it's the combination.
It's the combination of pill, and is it an IV?
No, I did the chemo pill I took every day, and then I went to radiation. So the radiation is in the pelvis, and that doesn't hurt. You don't feel anything while it's happening. But what it does is it's burning the tissue inside of your body. So it is like you build all this scar tissue, and I had a burn probably that big, like around your area down below.
Cannot imagine.
It was, yeah. And sometimes things can get soldered together.
Oh no.
If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the other part and the, like the two parts, right? Because there's two holes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so I remember crawling to the bathroom, just in pain. And my poor kids, it was just, so we end up in the hospital, and that was that picture of my boys coming up. And I had written every day of that 28 days, I had put a song out there and I attached it to a person that had made a difference in my life. I thought, you know what, if I'm going down, then we're going to do everything we can to say thank you to everybody I love.
I love that.
Right? And so
Yeah.
every day, Ring of Fire was one of them.
Yeah. Ring of Fire.
That's what friends are for. My best friend, wind beneath my wings. I'm a cheesy person, and I'm all about it.
No, you have to do stuff to have faith. At the end
Yes.
of the day, it's having faith.
Yeah.
And you were finding ways that were positive, and you were finding ways to love yourself while you went through the process, because that's not easy. Because I'm sure you think, God, I've been healthy. I'm a health and fitness coach. I'm doing everything by the books and positive mindset. Here I am, and I have cancer. Like, what do I do with this?
Right.
And then when you go through this process, it's not familiar and it's not fun. And you have family, friends that support you, even at a good place of life. Something like that is mentally, it just weighs on you.
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
did you? Because I always hear the word cancer survivor, but
Yes.
how did
don't
you
like that
become?
word.
No, I know you told me
I
that.
kind of am offended by that word.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
are.
there I am. I am just wearing my sex trafficking t-shirt,
She's
inspiring. We're going to have conversations. My room was full of flowers. Nurses would walk in and they'd be like, I feel the presence of God in your room. And I'd be like, thank you. I am feeling in a lot of pain and I'm screaming in the bathroom, but give me some more Dilaudid and I will pray. Let's pray,
Yeah. What were ways that you became from a survivor to a thriver? What were some other ways that you got out of it? If you give somebody who's going through cancer right now or some kind of health scare, what are
Right.
some tips you can give them to thrive?
So I definitely think finding a way that I could help inspire somebody else, and Facebook and that type of connection really helped me, because I remember being in the hospital and seeing somebody's father pass away and just going on Pro Flowers and sending them flowers. So being able to look outside of myself was super important. When you do go out and you share your story and you're vulnerable and you're like, this song is to this person and whatever, I don't even care if you think I'm a cheesemeister, all of a sudden people rally. And then I think it was for me. So it was really my gift, even though I was giving like, oh, I love you, then everybody would be like, I love your inspiration. I'd be like, thank you. Yes, I can keep going. That was huge for me. I think, after I had surgery was really where the darkness, I think, really set in, because I think then there was no return, right? I was never going to look the same. I was maybe never going to feel the same. I didn't know what life would look like for me. And so I think the thriving began after that. So I started a blog. I only did it for a little bit. It was called Sunshine and Silver Linings.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And I really struggled at that point to share a lot. I think I was so disconnected. I think, obviously I was disconnected because I had a colostomy, and I literally was disconnected just to myself, because who am I now? Like, I knew who I was, and I almost felt like I had to relearn who I was all over again. And it makes you feel so vulnerable.
Yes.
And insecure and unsteady.
Because you thought you were on this train, things were going well, you got this news, then you had to go through this process, and then you had to relearn to love yourself.
Yes.
As a woman, it's hard anyways. Like, we get inundated by, you got to look like this, or 40s old, or 50s old, and you have to deal with these social pressures, and all of a sudden you're left with, oh no, now how do I rebuild myself? Because it's like a house of cards that went crumbling down, and you have to build back up again.
Yes.
It's hard.
Oh my gosh. I felt like I was in the rubble. And so I remember, I write a lot, and I was in Hawaii. My husband and I got married in the midst of this. And so I kept seeing, I would write, actually, here's another thing for somebody that, when you're asking me that question, is I would write all the things I was grateful for. I remember I have 4 pages of a notebook, and every time something would happen, I would make sure I would write it down. So, we were getting married, and we got married in 10 days. And literally, if you look at my wedding pictures, you would be like, you had to plan that for months. It was just, people just came out of the woodwork and just loved us. We got this trip to Hawaii. His cousin was like, you can have our timeshare, and people just took care of us. It was amazing. And so I would write these things down, so that really helped me. I read the book of Job, which seems really kind of psychotic, but actually Job and I were the only ones. He could get me and I could get him, because he suffered, and I didn't know anybody at my age who had really been in a place of suffering like this, who had been as healthy as I was. It's different when I think somebody has a revelation, they've lived a really unhealthy lifestyle, they've burnt the candle at both ends, and they're like, now I see the light. I was seeing the light, and now what? So I was angry, I felt so much anger, and I could read the book of Job, and I would just write. I have a whole journal on what I learned, from him. So there were, I think connections with people was important. I think writing and knowing what you can find that you're grateful for, finding the silver lining. And gosh, I think as I picked up the pieces, I think for me, with having a colostomy, it was do everything that scares you. So put that bathing suit on.
You're like, no.
I was like, I'm in Hawaii. You may have that picture there. I am. There's Siggy. I call it Siggy. We had to have jokes about this. We had to I had to make fun of it too. That was the other thing. I had to make fun of everything. So if it made a sound, I'd be like, I didn't even do it on purpose. So do I have to still say, excuse me? I don't think I have to, there were those things, but then there were I don't want to go to a quiet place, because what if this makes a sound? So it was back and forth, I would have moments where I was just just do it. But then there was moments of I'm just going to stay in the house because I'm scared. I'm scared, and I don't feel sexy anymore, and I don't feel I feel uncomfortable. Like, what if it makes a noise and like I'm around people and what do I say? And of course, people who I didn't know anybody else either.
Right. And it's adapting to
Right.
your new reality
Yeah.
because that's hard. It's like, who do I know my age who's done this before?
Right.
You don't.
Right.
Yeah. It's very rare.
Yeah. So there's two people online. There was Zoe Wright,
Okay.
who actually just had a reversal. She is a bodybuilder, and she has a colostomy bag. And there was a man who had a colostomy bag, and he was a model and all that stuff. So I would pay attention to him. They were still working out. They were, right. So I think that really helped. I didn't do support groups. I went on a couple on Facebook, but I don't know.
You're a one-woman show. You're like, I'm going to figure this out.
I was like, you know what? And, and then you can irrigate it. And so I did a whole video for the people on there. And I was like, this is how you irrigate. And this is what you do. Like, I felt like I had to be like, I didn't want to be like, help me, help me. I didn't know how to be that. I really was like, how do I be like, do I need help? Like, no, I just need to figure this out. Like, I need to do this myself because there's a lot of, I just saw a lot of victimization. Like, I'm a victim and this happened to me. And I did not want cancer to be my story. Okay. Like,
you wanted it to be, yes, how you thrived after
I wanted
that.
to be like, I'm going to thrive because a survivor survived something. And oh my goodness. I mean, we need like Holocaust survivors, cancer survivors, everybody needs to be honored, sex traffic survivors. But there's a point that you say, I no longer am going to be a survivor. Because to me, it makes me feel like I'm a victim still.
Right.
And so if I'm thriving, I can be an overcomer. And I can go ahead and I can put that bathing suit on and not feel embarrassed. I can, go down that water slide.
You're doing that. You guys, Tracy is
Whatever.
thriving. She is posting this on Facebook. I met her thriving after her situation. She's working out.
Here's my
She is amazing, has a thriving business. You guys, you know what? I could talk to you all day about
I know.
But we only have a certain
only have
amount
so
of
much
time.
time.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you on again.
would
So
love
for
it.
sure. Yeah. You guys, where can our guests find you at?
Yeah, so Facebook or my website, mosaicfitnut.com, Facebook page, Instagram. I'm all on there and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Tracy, for
welcome.
bringing your sunshine and
Yes.
your thriving game today and sharing your story with
Yes.
other people out there. So in the case this happens to you or maybe you're going through this, you can reach out to Tracy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having
Awesome.
me.
Thank you. All right. So today's show was about self-love and ways that you can show self-love to yourself. And we had both Brandy and Tracy show us ways that you can do self-love. And I'm going to give you a couple tips of my own about self-love. Okay, so self-love is different for everybody. It's not going to be the same for me as it is for you. And you're going to have to find some way you can love yourself that's going to resonate with you, that's going to make you just soar and just fly. Because at the end of the day, it's about flying. And think of the words fly, F-L-Y. First, love yourself. And if you can't fly, right, if you can't love yourself, how can you love others? You want to make sure you love yourself first. And this is how we can do it. So Brandy and Tracy gave us tips. I'm going to give you a couple of my own. So one thing that was super important to me was creating a self-love ritual. Now, what is that? For everybody, it's going to be different. You can have a morning ritual, you can have an afternoon ritual, or you can have an evening ritual. And I kind of have a little bit of each. So sometimes it depends on the day. I'll have a morning ritual. And if I get too busy in the morning, I will have a nighttime ritual. So what does that look like? So say for instance, at night, I will unplug my phone. Well, actually plug it in and put it on the charger. It's out of my room. And I will read a book. I'll make some tea. Cheers. Some hot tea though. And I will read a book that's going to nourish me. So before I go to bed, I'm filling my mind and my mental muscles of positive words of affirmation. And it's just kind of like, it could be anything. It has to coach my brain and let me know I am worth it. I can do this in life. I'm not the only one. There are other people out there, and I have a support team. So I read different self-help books, and or sometimes it could be a podcast I could listen to, or a book, an ebook telling me I can do that. And so when I go to bed, instead of having nightmares, I can have this in my brain. I'll wake up the next day, and I will feel good. Some of you guys can do basically, have hot tea, read a book, take a bath, stuff that you can just kind of pour pour back in. If you decide to have a morning ritual, maybe you sleep in a little bit and you wake up and drink water. Maybe you meditate or you pray, but you're setting these intentions out there. You want to journal. So creating some type of self-love ritual is important for healing. And I feel like you guys, you can't do that alone, right? So I have this community called the Plant Chicks Tribe, and we try to meet up for either like a book, like a book club, or watch a positive movie, or maybe we journal together, or like right now I'm doing a 30-day challenge with Jeanette, and we're pouring back into our bodies, our mind, body, and soul, with nourishing with the right foods, connecting with community, and just moving our bodies and journaling. We're trying just to heal ourselves every single day. Self-love isn't easy. It's just like one workout isn't going to make you fit. One salad is not going to make you healthy. It's continued workouts is where you get strong. It's these healthy meals that's going to nourish you and get off the inflammation and fat, right? Same thing with self-love. You may not love yourself the first time you do it. You're like, this is crazy. I don't like to journal. This person in this book is crazy. Like in the beginning, it's hard. You're just going to have to keep doing it. And once you establish a self-love ritual, then you get addicted to it. Like I love listening to my nourishing podcast and reading my books. I love having meetups with my girlfriends that are on a different level than me. I don't like to hang around people that gossip. I don't like to hang around people that are super negative. And back in the day, I was a miserable Marcia. Now I'm magnificent Marcia. And my positive tribe is way bigger than my negative tribe, because there was a time in my life I was in a dark space. I had a negative tribe. And you guys, it is no fun, right? And the only reason why I bonded and connected with these people, because I didn't love myself and they didn't love themselves. So we connected through this angry hatred type of, I would say loveless life. And now that I found self-love, I see people, I'm like, let me help you. Here's like, take this rope, let me pull you up. And it's finding people like Brandy and Tracy, reaching out to them. Like if you do love yourself and you're like, where do I start? Reach out to somebody like Brandy, who is a self-love coach. If you're like, oh my gosh, I've got cancer, I don't know how to handle this, I need a support group. Reach out to Tracy, somebody who has had cancer before, to get you through that. Don't be afraid to reach out. A lot of times we are afraid to reach out. We're scared. We're scared of being vulnerable to people. We're scared to like letting people know what's, like I would say, wrong with us, when there's nothing wrong. Someone has been in your same position out there that needs help. And I've been there before. I can relate to so many people that either had eating disorders, who hated themselves when I drank too much or was on drugs. I can relate to so many people I can't even tell you, because I've been through that journey. I know what it's like. And now I have compassion for people who, when I see that they are in that position, I'm like, ooh, I've been there before. And it's going to be, a hard journey. You're gonna have to dig a hole to really get out of that. It's not gonna be easy. My whole self-love journey wasn't like I read a book and I was cured. A lot of people think that. We're in the day and age of, here you go, here's an app for that, right? There might be an app for you to do workout and eat right and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to do the work. You have to do the work day in and day out to make this a habit, because it's about retraining the brain. Remember, it's all about the mental muscle. You cannot love yourself just by doing an action and you're being a robot. You have to be connected. Make some time to be by yourself so you connect with yourself. Because remember, we're always giving. You want to make sure you give to yourself too, because you can't pour from an empty cup. I know what that's like. That is so hard to give to others, because people can feel that. If you're not authentic, you're not genuine, people can legitly feel the fakeness. If you're really authentic, people can feel the connection too. And they're like, ooh, I like this person. I can feel it. They can see your passion. People can feel your authenticity. Can't talk today. I think I need some more tea. No. They can feel your authenticity. They can really feel your vibe, because they say your vibe attracts your tribe. And I completely, fully believe that. Here at the Southern Fried Tea, Jeanette, she pours into you guys. She picks ladies that have created either their business or, their life of some type of hardship or survival mode. And then they built this life, and she's here to bring these ladies to tell their stories to empower you. And I'm so fortunate and so grateful that Jeanette asked me to be on the show and to let me shine and pour a little bit of tidbit into you guys. And let me invite two guests that were super special to me today, because these two ladies have inspired me to the umpteenth. I can't even explain it, like my heart is full, that, you know, they've changed my life. And every time you meet somebody that changes your life, you want to bless others to change their life too. So here at the Southern Fried Tea, I just want to thank Jeanette for having me guest host today. And I want to thank you guys for being here and listening and just, you know, seeing what's up, you know, like, who is this Marcia girl? Like, what's going on now? Jeanette asked me, I have to say, I'm super grateful she asked me. She obviously saw something in me to host the show for you guys. So I just want to say, I want to pour back into you. I want to thank you guys for listening, and thank you. And we will see you next time on the Southern Fried Tea. Have a great day, guys.